Welcome to the next edition of The Road Ahead. And as we continue to explore where God is taking us in this COVID-19 moment, I want to look at two core frameworks that are shaping my thinking. The first framework is from a man by the name of John McKnight. I heard him speak about this when I was in Canada, and I'm going to post the paper he wrote about this on the show notes on both the podcast and the YouTube video of this episode, because for me it's providing a really important way of thinking about where God's taking us. What John McKnight demonstrated is a significant difference between what we would call a standard organisation and what he labelled an association. What he talked about is, as an organisation, is something that's very familiar to us, and it's just the idea that one person, by organising job functions, can control many people. And this way of organising is not new. We see Moses doing it in the book of Exodus, thanks to the input of his father-in-law, but it really was thoroughly developed through the Industrial Revolution and further through people like Henry Ford, who broke jobs down into their constituent parts, and this way of organising has largely shaped the Christian church. And so we have a model of church which largely, certainly in some places and in the Protestant church, largely is analogous to a business where the pastor is effectively the CEO, and under them they have sub-pastors and small groups, and we all sort of fall in line under a pyramid. What John McKnight demonstrated in his paper was that this way of operating has particular strengths. This way of operating is why when you go anywhere in the world, you can go to a McDonald's and get a Big Mac that tastes the same. What it is brilliant at is allowing one person to control many people and produce predictable results. So if you want to produce a great deal of the same thing, this is the structure you use. It is also the only structure that can really manage quality in a consistent kind of way. And so this is a very hierarchical, authoritarian structure. This is what we mean when we mean an organisation. What John McKnight did is he said, well, one of the problems is when we think about organisations in terms of care, because its strengths are that it produces a great deal of the same thing, but he pointed out that organisations can't care. And so if we are thinking of church like this, all we can do is organise programs. And we can deliver those programs in a consistently excellent way. We can brand them, we can position them, but we can only think in terms of programs and events. But what McKnight pointed out is it takes people to care. And he contrasted what he meant by organisation with what he called an association. And the difference between an organisation and an association is that everybody in an association is freely choosing to be there and is bringing what they want to bring to the association. And within that, people are free to bring their gifts and skills, or not to bring their gifts and skills. He said associations have been, from his perspective, the building block of democracy. And it really has been people voluntarily choosing to be together. And of course, the Christian church is really meant to be an association in this way of thinking about it. It's a set of relationships rather than an organisational structure. Now, it doesn't mean that organisation is wrong. There are things that have to be organised. You do want to be able to pay your bills on time. You've got to organise, a cleaning roster. If your cleaner just cleans when they feel like turning up and cleaning, you're going to be in trouble. So there are aspects of church life that need to be organised this way, but the core functions of church need to be thought of in terms of association. That's why for me, when I was hearing him say this, there's a light bulb went on. I thought, yeah, this is really important in thinking through what the role of the church is. So I think we got kind of stuck in this, and what has happened with the COVID-19 moment is the organisational structure that we are used to has been taken away, and all we are left with is the association. All we are left with is the association, and often remotely through screens and things. But what is helpful about this, and this is what I think God is doing in this moment, is we are seeing that in this COVID-19 moment, one of the illusions of the top-down approach is that somehow if I get to the right church with the right kind of leadership, everything I'll fit in and everything will work well, and my spiritual life will be a result of the great leadership of the leader of the church I'm going to. In this association kind of approach to church, each one of us has to take responsibility for our spiritual journey. And so for me, the dichotomy between organisation and association, and the reality that this is where people live, and it's always voluntary. It is always voluntary. The moment the association gets controlling, it is no longer an association, it becomes an organisation, and you lose the best of what the thing is about. And we see this right the way, and this is actually one of the great challenges facing the church at the moment, because while we've had our organisations, it really has been the association sort of underlying the organisation, the people who just turn up and do stuff, that have been the lifeblood of the church. And as that social capital, which is the stuff that John McKnight writes most about, he really is one of the forefront thinkers in terms of community development and asset-based community development, particularly is his thing. Then this is where the church, as we lose the focus on association, this is where the church has gone missing. Now, so I think this is part of what God is wanting to do at the moment. He's wanting to renew our focus on association, and ultimately it's a Christ-focused association is exactly what the church is meant to be. We are meant to be a body, not an organisation. And Paul's whole metaphor of the body is that we are each different, and we each bring our unique gifts, we each bring our unique skills, and it takes a flat-out miracle of the Holy Spirit to hold the church together. So, as I said, this is something I've been thinking a bit about. I think as the COVID-19 thing has hit, it has taken away from us any illusion that the organisation can do our spiritual formation for us. And in fact, it has really focused the need for this association kind of thinking about church. And I think that as part of that, we're moving away from the illusion that church leaders are the ones that are going to help you, they're our gurus. No, I think in this moment, as we head down this path, each one of us is having to take a new level of responsibility for our spiritual life, which is truly as it always actually was, but now is being clearly seen for the reality of it. So this is one of the frameworks that has me thinking, and these two different paradigms, the association versus organisation, and I think that probably the organisation has for too long taken predominance, and we've focused so much on organisational leadership and organisational structure and our programs, and we've implemented and imported programs. But no program can ultimately care. It is only people who can care. And that is why we're needing to rediscover the associational life of the local church. And that's why I'm grateful that John McKnight did the work he did and has helped me think. I don't know if he was, I'm sure he wasn't intentionally thinking about church as he wrote this, but certainly all the research around social capital and all that sort of stuff does provide a whole window into understanding what the church is when the church is at its best. I'll be back next week with more thinking about what where God's taking us and how all this works together. But I hope you found this particular idea and John McKnight's paper, which I'll link to in the notes here, helpful in thinking through what kind of future God is calling us to.